I want this video to be a follow-up to my last video on romanticizing where we aren't, because I don't feel like I did a good enough job on going through the importance of romanticizing where we currently are. So, there are two paths, broadly, that you can take with this thought process. The first one, you could see it as generally negative, as something that is an indulgent sense of contentment that could potentially lead to some sort of complacency, therefore not growing or developing or contributing as much as you can, be it towards yourself, your own goals, your own projects, or even to the people around you. Or there is the second kind. There is a second perspective on this where it realizes the importance of being grateful for what you have, be it the people, the places, the opportunities that you currently have in your life, especially the small things. The big things can be easy to recognize, but the small things, like being grateful that it's a relatively sunny day outside, or being grateful that it's raining even, that your plants outside or the grass on your, little tiny patch of lawn gets some kind of nourishment, or even the taste of the particular kind of muesli that you like to have. All of these tiny little things that might seem insignificant and might not seem like the biggest deal in the world, they can kind of provide a certain sense of awe or majesty that you have going throughout your day. Now, you can probably tell which one I'm tending towards, but don't be mistaken, I am all for ensuring that we stave off complacency and we make sure to take care of the things we need to be taken care of, because if we aren't, then we're not living our lives the best that we can. We are, in some part, wasting them, and that's just simply unacceptable. I've found that throughout my day, there might be certain little things that might happen that are very insignificant, and in all respects don't necessarily mean that much. But when I take the extra second to give it a little bit of extra meaning, to be grateful and thankful for whatever it might be, that makes my day a little bit better. And I'm not sure whether or not it's just simply my own voluntary delusion that allows me to have this increase in life satisfaction. But even if it is just that, isn't that kind of worth it? I personally don't find these things to be delusional to appreciate. Because, for example, if you were to go sufficiently deep in any particular insignificant moment, let's say it's looking at a leaf in the sunlight, or it's feeling the breeze as you're walking from event to event. These little things, once you have a further, let's say, scientific understanding of them, they become a lot more interesting, and you can become a lot more curious about their nature. Be it the chloroplasts that are making the green in a leaf, or be it the turbulent airflows that are around in certain air cycles. Well, in almost all air cycles, pretty much. Let's not get into that. The main point here is that everyday things have a certain depth to them that can be very easy to dismiss or to look over simply due to their common nature. And I feel that with, for example, what I said with the leaf being green and looking nice in the sunlight, there's different levels of appreciation that you can go through with something like that, which can be seen across almost most other things that you'd have in your day-to-day life. These different layers of appreciation of the particular thing. You could come in at the ground floor and just say, hey, I like this leaf, it looks green, and I like how the sunlight bounces off it. Then you could go to the next layer and say what I said before of how it's interesting that the chloroplasts represent that green color. And then you can say, oh, okay, well, what's the chloroplasts made of? And then you can say, well, there are two kinds of things called chlorophyll, which is a particular pigment that makes the leaves green. And you have all of these layers, and you can keep going and keep going and keep going. Now, this isn't a science lesson, but the point that I bring that up is because this depth can be very hard to register or to see in the moment if we're just rushing between things, if we aren't doing the proverbial smelling of the roses. In that kind of way, to take an extra second and to be a little bit more in the moment, to be a little bit more present with what we are experiencing, gives us access to this depth, gives us this access to this kind of everyday magic, you could say. Magic is one of those things that makes life interesting. It can astound us. It can put us back into the shoes of our childhood self. It can give us a certain sense of wonder or mystery. And I feel like this kind of connection, this visceral interaction with life, with our environment, is hard to replace and it's hard to replicate. Again, not to say that we need to prioritize feeling this over anything else. We still need to, go out into the world and do important, hard things that test our will and resilience and capabilities. But to have the contrast of doing those things, doing those difficult things and pushing ourselves to then reflect on the beauty of particular moments, albeit small or grandiose. It's important to appreciate them as well. But to appreciate these small moments that we have access to in almost any moment gives us the freedom, gives us the opportunity, I feel, to live slightly more enjoyable lives at the very least. This kind of mindset can also even be used for the projects that we're working on, the work that we find ourselves doing, the ways in which we are contributing. These may be taxing, difficult things that we are doing, but if we can be a little bit romantic about seeing our role that we are playing or the things that we are doing, that can make it all the easier to do, and that can be very important in preventing ourselves from burning out or from feeling like we are getting sick of whatever it is we're doing. Even if we know that whatever we are doing is ultimately good for us and the direction that we're taking our lives. Alongside all of the great things we intend on doing, we should also give ourselves a few seconds, a moment every now and then to reflect and appreciate the context that we find ourselves doing all of these actions and working towards all of these things. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that can make all of the difference. It can be far too easy as well to lose sight of the beauty of our everyday actions and of the things that we're working towards and of the interactions that we have with people in our lives that we can maybe sell a little bit short because, they're just them. Like, they've been around for ages and, it's fine, we're good. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't need to show my appreciation for this particular tiny thing that only they do. Or I don't need to show appreciation for having running water, let's say, or just being able to go down the street and pick up some food from a supermarket. These kinds of things, again, might seem very small, but on a world scale can actually be incredibly lucky things to have access to, and so we shouldn't overlook their value. Habituation may be alright in some aspects, in some things, but definitely not in all things at all times. But this is absolutely something we have to be intentional about. We have to intentionally decide to romanticize some insignificant things in our day-to-day life. I didn't want to make this video too long because, as I said, it's kind of just a follow-up to my last vid to have a chance to talk about a few more important points that I think are good to note. So, I hope it was at least semi-interesting. Naturally, if you have any suggestions or ideas for anything that you would add to this video, or if you have any opinions on things that I have added that you'd like to share, then feel free to put them down in the comments below. If you'd like a little bit more of a back and forth, then feel free. We've got the Discord server. I'll have the link in the description as well. If you're wanting to keep up to date with my more day-to-day motions and movements, then I'll put my Instagram in there as well. But, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for being here, and do more than you think you can.